My wife's car Bluetooth connected to my phone by mistake, and within seconds, I heard my best friend laughing as she called me a pathetic fool. They were planning a life together, behind my back. Please stay with me as I tell you my story, and don't forget to support our channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing with your loved one. My name is Jordan Adeyemi. I'm a 34-year-old commercial architect living in Greenville, North Carolina. On paper, my life looked ideal. Solid career, beautiful home, loving wife. At least, that's what I believed. My wife, Marissa Logan, works in HR. Polished, well-spoken, always knew how to make people feel seen, especially me. Or so I thought. That morning started like any other. I'd just come back from my run, sat down with my smoothie, and was about to sync up my calendar when my phone suddenly picked up a Bluetooth signal. Marissa had left her car parked in the driveway, and for reasons I still don't understand, it connected to my phone instead of her. At first, I thought it was a misdial. Then I heard the voice. Derek Shaw. My best friend since college. They didn't know I was listening. He laughed, his usual smug, bass-heavy laugh. And then she said it. Once he signs the house over for the tax benefits, we'll have everything we need to start our new life without that pathetic fool. Then both of them laughed, like it was the most natural thing in the world. They weren't whispering. They weren't cautious. They spoke like two people completely certain that I had no idea. I sat there frozen. I wasn't angry. Not yet. My mind went silent, like someone had hit mute on the world. For a long moment, all I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears and the sound of them planning my erasure from my own. I didn't hang up. I listened. She talked about me like I was a chore. He called me a glorified draftsman who got lucky. They were planning it all. When to finalize the paperwork, how to gradually pull my name off accounts, and which lawyer to use. Apparently, Marissa had been coached by Derek to make the whole thing look like it was my idea. And I stayed silent. No confrontation. No impulsive decisions. Just a nod to myself. A quiet acknowledgement that my marriage had died long before that phone call. They just didn't know I knew yet. From that moment, I started counting. 97 days. I smiled every day. I cooked dinner. I kissed her goodnight. I sent Derek memes like nothing had changed. I became the perfect husband, the man she could never suspect. And while they laughed behind my back, I began quietly planning every detail of what would become the most patient, deliberate betrayal they would never see coming. They thought I was oblivious. They were wrong. So very wrong. I didn't flinch. I didn't curse or drink or throw a single thing. Not even when I handed Marissa the signed transfer papers for the house she was already planning to take from me. Her smile when she saw my signature, relief disguised as affection, was almost impressive. I matched it with one of my own, warm enough to melt through steel. Each morning, I brewed her favorite hazelnut blend. If I got the ratio even slightly off, she'd wrinkle her nose. I never got it wrong. At night, I rubbed the knots from her shoulders while she vented about work. I offered advice. I held her hand. I tucked Amaya's stuffed animals back into bed when she kicked them off in her sleep. I told stories in silly voices, packed balanced lunches, folded laundry without a single sigh. I even upgraded the security system, per her request. To make us feel safer, she said. They had no idea how closely I was watching. I waited until Marissa left town for a wellness retreat, with a coworker she couldn't name twice before hiring Nia on Ubik. A former insurance fraud investigator turned PI. Nia didn't flinch when I laid everything out. She asked 2 questions. First, you want divorce or destruction? Second, how quiet do you want to be? I told her the truth. I didn't want fireworks. I wanted dust, quiet, steady, irreversible collapse. Within days, Nia found the leased condo. Midtown, high-end, paid in cash. Registered under a shell company linked to Derek's cousin. From there, it unraveled fast. Photos. Video. Credit card trails. Rental cars. A lunch in Raleigh, a work conference in Charlotte that looked a lot more like a romantic getaway. She even got timestamps showing them entering and leaving a downtown apartment building exactly 9 minutes apart. Classic move. I watched every clip, listened to the audio, memorized the way Marissa touched his arm when she laughed, the way Derek's voice dropped when he said her name. The lies didn't bother me as much as the choreography, their arrogance in thinking they were invisible. Back at home, I kept everything seamless. I fixed the leaky faucet she'd been nagging about, booked a sitter for Amaya so Marissa and I could reconnect. I told her I was considering a new branch in D.C. She encouraged it, said it might give her space to think. I told her I trusted her with everything. She told me I was too good for her, and I just smiled, even when I caught them slipping up. Derek left his watch in her glove compartment, Rolex, navy strap, same one I helped him pick out 5 years ago. She claimed it was her boss's. I nodded, kissed her forehead, and dropped it in the kitchen drawer. Didn't even lock it. The hardest part? Looking Amaya in the eye and pretending I didn't know her mother was rehearsing an exit. But I wasn't rushing. Every day, I logged details. Every time they met, every dollar moved, every call placed from numbers they thought couldn't be traced. I built a timeline so tight it could strangle. And through it all, I stayed constant, present, unbothered, the perfect husband, the man who, by all appearances, had nothing to hide and nothing to fear. There's something disturbing about realizing how quickly people forget the trails they leave behind. Maybe it was arrogance. Or maybe Marissa just never imagined I'd be capable of digging. Not like this. Nia called late on a Wednesday. Her voice was steady, professional, but the pause before she spoke told me everything. She opened an account in Derek's name. Used your old architecture license to validate the paperwork. Looks like she recycled your inactive LLC, Adeyemi Draft and Design. Closed 3 years ago. The signature on the form? A forged version of mine. Sloppy. Not even the same ink stroke I use when I sign contracts. It was lazy. That made it worse. Still, I didn't change my routine. I folded Amaya's laundry while Marissa was in the shower. The steam from the bathroom fogged the hallway mirror. She hummed while rinsing her hair. I stood there, silently, memorizing the melody. Every sound felt like a warning shot she didn't know she was firing. 2 days later, I took a quiet flight to Richmond, Virginia. No one asked questions. I used a burner email to set up a trust and opened a new account under the name Chesapeake Property Holder. I deposited an exact amount, just enough to look boring to anyone who might notice, but enough to matter when it counted. The LLC was structured through a layering system Nia helped me test, designed to bury ownership under 5 administrative steps. Not even a forensic accountant could link it to me easily. But I wasn't working alone anymore. Clarence Iroha was the type of friend who didn't blink when I asked for help. We hadn't spoken in 5 years, ever since he left Durham for a district attorney's job in Cincinnati, but when he picked up the phone, he said, "You sound like a man sitting on something hot. Talk to me." Within hours, Clarence walked me through what I needed to collect. Timestamps, IP addresses, notarized documents that didn't match registry record. He even helped me obtain copies of the IP logs for the supposed business filing. Nia cross-checked them. One pinged from Derek's co-working space in Atlanta. The same day Marissa claimed she was at a leadership retreat. I forwarded it all to Clarence through a secure drive labeled wedding photos. He didn't laugh, but I heard the smirk in his voice. Meanwhile, Marissa booked flights. Jamaica. A beachfront villa. I saw the receipt in her inbox, carelessly forwarded from Derek. The subject line read, "Our paradise." She left it open on her laptop. Didn't even password lock the screen. I suppose trust makes people sloppy. They'd planned their getaway for the second weekend in June. What they didn't know was that I'd already filed an anonymous complaint with the IRS's fraud unit. Clarence confirmed it triggered a pre-investigative inquiry. Just enough for now. Just enough to make their financial footprints light up under a blacklight. Phase 1 was in motion. I didn't cancel the trip. I didn't hack her email. I didn't even remove my name from her emergency contact. I just waited, rebuilt, quietly, because by the time they returned from their romantic escape, they'd be walking back into a house no longer under her name, with accounts that didn't respond to her password and friends who suddenly stopped answering her calls. And I'd still be smiling. She still thought I was the same man who forgot our anniversary 3 years ago. The man who couldn't keep his inbox organized or remember to pay the car registration on time. That was the version of me she kept underestimating. And I let her. I sent a bouquet of lilies to her office every 3rd Friday. She didn't realize I kept track of her cycle, timed the gesture for maximum emotional impact. Her co-workers swooned over my thoughtfulness. Marissa texted me heart emojis from the break room, followed by a selfie with the flowers. I forwarded it to my content manager in DC, who scheduled the post under our shared Instagram, #marriedandgrateful. Her friends loved it. One even commented, "Y'all are goals." She had no clue I hadn't touched the app in 6 months. While she basked in our fake love online, I was quietly dismantling the world around. First, insurance. I'd added her name to the policy last year, assuming we'd build a life on top of that house. Now I made a midnight call and pulled the plug. Policy terminated. No coverage. If anything happened to the place, she'd be holding the keys to a liability, not a home. Second, Derek's precious startup, Folktales. I never talked about it, never bragged. But 2 years ago, he begged me to fund the seed round. I did. Quietly. I never even sat on the board. I let him think I forgot the paperwork. He didn't know I still owned 11%. I withdrew it. Not loudly. Not all at once. Piece by piece. Converted the stock into crypto, pushed it through layered wallets, then into a real estate holding company Clarence managed. All completely legal. And Derek didn't notice. Not until someone else did. A rival firm in Austin got an anonymous email from a Proton Mail account with a full PDF attachment. It detailed Voltwice's unstable debt ratio, lack of liquidity coverage, and unprotected data nodes vulnerable to breach. The firm's CEO, Derek's former mentor, recognized the numbers immediately. By the end of the week, Derek lost 2 major angel investors. One cited unexpected concerns about internal risk exposure. The other simply ghosted. He ranted to Marissa one night after dinner. I overheard him on speakerphone as I rinsed dishes in the kitchen. She told him to calm down. I dropped the plate into the sink with a satisfying clink and kept scrubbing. She never looked up. Meanwhile, Clarence formalized the new LLC. The name wasn't flashy, Southwell Holding, but the documents were airtight. Everything that mattered, cash reserves, long-term bonds, even a vintage art collection my father left me, all moved into the trust. Marissa's name didn't appear once, not as a co-signer, not as a beneficiary. It was the sort of maneuver that takes months to unwind. If she ever noticed, she didn't. She was busy texting Derek about weekend plans and looking up couples' massage packages in Montego Bay. I ordered wine for dinner and let her choose the movie. She picked a romantic comedy. We laughed at all the right parts. She rested her head on my shoulder, whispering how lucky she felt. I kissed her hair and thought, you have no idea how fast your luck's running out. Marissa planned the housewarming party like she was curating a museum exhibit. White roses, custom cocktails, a catered fusion menu that somehow managed to include both Nigerian jollof and shrimp ceviche. She wanted the kind of night people posted about, the kind that made others scroll and feel like they were missing something special. She called it a celebration of us. What she meant was a celebration of what she thought she'd stolen without me noticing. I ironed my shirt, straightened Amaya's bow tie, and posed for the pre-party photos like any proud husband. The patio lights twinkled just right as the photographer captured us candidly, laughing by the pool. She held my hand tighter than usual. Maybe guilt. Maybe nerves. Maybe she just liked the way the cameras made us look more permanent. The guests trickled in, co-workers, neighbors, 2 of her college friends she barely spoke to anymore. But I was only watching for 3 men. I'd researched their faces weeks before. 2 were early-stage investors in Derek's startup. The third? A former operations manager turned silent capital partner who'd once taken a hit for insider trading and now kept a low profile. I handed each of them a drink personally. Derek arrived late, as if the delay gave him power. He wore a navy blazer over a t-shirt like he thought he was Steve Jobs with better skin. He slapped my back like we were Old War buddies. Man, this place is fire. You did good. I poured him a double. Didn't speak. Just smiled. They talked a lot that night, Marissa and Derek. Not to each other, not directly. They hovered in the same rooms, near the same circles, always careful. But when Marissa toasted the beginning of many more milestones, she looked right at him for half a second too long. I didn't drink much. Just enough to keep the illusion alive. I walked from group to group like the good host I was pretending to be. Meanwhile, my eyes stayed on one man, Gideon Ford, the third investor. The one who hadn't spoken publicly in 6 years. His watch was more expensive than his car. His smile, thinner than the rim of the glass he held. Just before dessert, I slipped him a small black flash drive inside a folded linen napkin. No theatrics, no whispers. Just a firm handshake, eye contact, and the words, "For your eyes only." I didn't wait to see his reaction. Later, when the DJ started playing Afrobeats and the guests got louder, I stood at the edge of the lawn, pretending to enjoy the breeze. Behind me, I heard Gideon ask Derek for a word. Quietly, away from the others. I didn't turn around. Inside, Marissa was showing off the walk-in pantry like it was a diamond vault. Amaya was curled up in a corner with her tablet, headphones on, oblivious to the adult theater unfolding in shadows and subtext. By the time the party ended, Derek looked pale. Not sick, not drunk, just unsettled. Like something small and sharp had lodged itself beneath his ribcage, and he hadn't figured out how to breathe around it. Marissa hugged him a little too long at the door. He barely squeezed back. I kissed her cheek and whispered, "Great party, babe." She smiled like she won something. I smiled like I let her think so. The audit came faster than even I expected. 3 days after the housewarming party, Derek's startup accounts were frozen. Investors withdrew. Payroll stalled. Someone, maybe Gideon, maybe someone higher, had forwarded the contents of the flash drive to a regulatory body. A review turned into a deep dive. That deep dive turned into a compliance nightmare. The morning it happened, Marissa barely touched her coffee. She paced the kitchen, phone pressed to her ear, eyes darting toward me every few seconds. I flipped pancakes for Amaya and asked if anyone wanted blueberries. Marissa waved me off, distracted. Amaya giggled, unaware that the adults in the room were walking through fire. By the time I dropped Amaya at school, Marissa had already texted me twice. "Do you remember if we ever used your old LLC for anything in 2021? Followed by, "Babe, did you ever sign anything for Derek's business?" I didn't answer. That afternoon, a plain white envelope arrived, official certified. I brought it inside like I didn't notice the seal, placed it on the dining table beside her glass of wine, and said, "Mail came for you." She didn't open it immediately. She stared at it first, as if she could will the contents to change. When she finally read it, her hands shook. Just slightly. The letter outlined a pending investigation into suspected real estate fraud involving false documentation. The name on the complaint? Mine. My old business license. My forged signature. But the notice wasn't addressed to me. It was addressed to her. She didn't ask if I'd seen it. She folded it, too neat, and slipped it into her purse. Then she started baking. Marissa never baked. But that night there were muffins. Banana walnut. She offered me one with a look that almost passed for soft. "Thought we could use something sweet," she said. I took it. Ate it. Told her it was perfect. She didn't sleep much after that. I heard the whisper of her laptop keys at 3 a.m., the glass clink of wine bottles shifting in the recycling. She started locking her phone. Started jumping when Amaya came into the room too fast. I pretended not to notice. When I found her whispering into the phone in the garage, she claimed it was her sister. Her sister lives in Canada. The call log showed a 404 area code. I didn't press her. The beautiful part about paranoia is that it does the work for you. You just have to sit still long enough. Let them unravel. Let them look in every direction for a threat that's already inside the house. She started asking strange questions. Do you think people change? Would you ever do something drastic for love? Have you noticed anything weird lately? I smiled, kissed her forehead, and told her she was imagining things. She believed me. But every time she blinked, I could see the fear crawling behind her eyes. It started with one missed call, then 5, then 12, Marissa, Derek, and one unfamiliar number that traced back to a Dallas area code. I watched the screen light up while I sat in the break room at my office, calmly stirring a spoonful of honey into my tea. The messages came next, quick and breathless. "Call me. What did you do? We need to talk. Now." I didn't respond. My calendar was booked. No sudden changes. At noon, I reviewed a site plan for a new residential complex. At 2, I signed off on permits. At 3:30, I stepped into the hallway and saw her. Marissa, standing outside my office door like she'd forgotten how she got there. Her blouse was rumpled, hair flat, eyes rimmed with the kind of red that mascara can't hide. Her breathing was shallow, hands trembling just enough to make the silver bracelets on her wrist jingle with each twitch. She didn't ask permission to come in, just walked past my assistant and stood in the center of the room like a ghost demanding answers. I didn't get up right away. Let the silence stretch. Then I stood, crossed the room, and took her hand like it was any other Tuesday. I pulled her close and hugged her, held her, felt her pulse racing like a panicked bird in a box. When I finally spoke, it was soft, like I didn't want anyone else to hear. "Don't worry, babe. Everything's going to be just fine." She broke then. Not loud, not dramatic. But her fingers tightened against my back like she was trying to keep herself upright through sheer force of will. "I think someone's targeting us," she whispered. I gently pulled away, gave her the most reassuring look I could fake. "What makes you say that?" She looked stunned, like I hadn't been the one getting dozens of the same messages. Like I was still that oblivious husband who couldn't remember to set up his voicemail. "It's Derek," she muttered. "His investors pulled out. His bank accounts are locked. Someone leaked everything. And someone sent a packet of documents, condo ownership records, to a woman in Dallas." Her voice cracked on the last word. His wife. She didn't have to say it. I already knew Derek was married. Never divorced. A little detail buried in court records Nia had uncovered in week 4. Marissa had no idea. She thought she was planning a new life with a man who hadn't finished his old one. Now his real wife wanted answers. And so did every investor who had no idea Voltwise was bleeding money and hiding assets in shell property. Marissa sank into the chair across from my desk, chewing on the inside of her cheek. "You don't think it was you, right?" she asked. I tilted my head slightly. What would I even know to leak? She didn't answer. That night, I brought home takeout from her favorite Thai spot. She barely touched her food. Amaya asked why Mommy was so quiet. I told her Mommy just had a long day. We played a board game while Marissa sat silently on the couch, phone in hand, waiting for a call that didn't come. The storm had begun, but only she could hear the thunder. On the 97th morning, I woke up before dawn. Amaya was still curled beneath her blanket, thumb tucked under her cheek like always. I sat on the edge of her bed for a moment, just watching her breathe. Then I stood, walked into the kitchen, and opened my laptop. One by one, I shut the doors. The joint accounts closed. Marissa's name scrubbed clean. Cards canceled. Access revoked. Her car insurance, once bundled with mine, was delinked and reissued under an expired policy. The utility bills were switched to autopay through the LLC. My credit lines restructured under a trust she didn't even know existed. She wouldn't see it coming. Not yet. At 8:17 a.m., Clarence messaged. Just one line, we're live. The IRS inquiry had officially begun. No more anonymous complaints. No more quiet whispers. This was jurisdictional firepower, and Clarence had moved things across state lines just in time. I knew Marissa would get the letter by noon. I didn't need to wait to watch her open it. By 9 a.m., Amaya was dressed, backpack on. I handed her a blueberry muffin and a banana. She grinned through every bite. She didn't ask why we were taking the long drive instead of walking to school. I told her we were going on a surprise trip, just the two of us. She clapped and asked if it had a pool. It did. The house in Chesapeake was ready. Tucked away, quiet, nothing showy. Paid in full, registered under Southwell Holding. No one could trace it to me directly. Clarence made sure of that. What Marissa didn't know, and wouldn't discover until it was far too late, was that I had filed for temporary guardianship of Amaya weeks earlier. Marissa had missed the hearing. That letter, too, had gone unread. We were halfway across the Virginia state line when my phone began to light up like a slot machine. Call after call. 42 by the end of it. Marissa. Derek. Her sister. 2 of Derek's investors. An Atlanta number I didn't recognize. Even her boss at the HR firm she worked at. I didn't answer a single one. I turned the volume all the way down and drove in silence. Amaya sang softly in the back seat, off-key but happy. When we pulled up to the house, the key turned without resistance. Cool air greeted us inside, faintly citrus-scented from the automatic diffuser. I showed Amaya her new room, already set up with her books, her dolls, her nightlight. She gasped. Outside, my phone buzzed again. I powered it off this time. In another city, Marissa was unraveling. Derek was likely panicking. Investors were pulling away. And the world they'd carefully constructed on lies and ambition was collapsing around them. But I wasn't there to see it. I was in Chesapeake, standing on my own floor, with my daughter laughing down the hallway. Exactly where I was meant to be. I didn't answer a single call. The voicemail inbox overflowed within hours. Marissa sobbing, Derek shouting, her sister begging for context, her boss stumbling through a confused message about legal papers arriving at the office. Each message was a variation of panic, confusion, desperation. I played none of them. Instead, I opened the voice recorder on my phone and pressed record. I kept my tone even, almost casual. There was no need to yell. No rage left. Just clarity. I gave you everything, I said. And you called me pathetic. You thought I didn't know. But I knew. Every single day. Every lie. Every smile. Every whisper you thought I wouldn't hear. I let it play out because I wanted to see how far you'd go. Turns out, you'd go all the way. Now I'm gone. And so is everything you thought you owned. I paused, not for effect, but because there was nothing more to say. Then I hit send. The audio was attached to an email, scheduled, not immediate. I didn't want them to hear it right away. I wanted them to stew for another few hours. Let silence gnaw at them like rust under fresh paint. Then I blocked them both. Phone, email, socials, gone. That evening, I grilled fish on the back patio while Amaya built a tower of sticks and stones in the yard. The sun was low, casting long shadows. The air smelled clean. She came up beside me, holding her stuffed elephant under one arm. Mom called, she said quietly. I didn't answer. Is that okay? I turned to her and smiled, brushing a curl off her forehead. That's perfect. She grinned, nodded, and went back to her project. There's something sacred about stillness. It's not just quiet. It's absence. The kind of absence that comes after war. The kind that doesn't need to explain itself. I wasn't angry anymore. Just done. They had both tried to take something from me. My home, my daughter, my dignity. But they failed to realize I was never fighting to keep them. I was fighting to walk away with my head high and my hands clean. The cost was everything I'd built with them. The reward was everything I could now build without them. And as I watched Amaya chase fireflies under a darkening sky, I realized I didn't need revenge to feel whole. All I needed was distance. And silence. That was victory enough. Months passed. The noise faded. So did the names. Derek disappeared from tech spaces after a quiet indictment landed him under house arrest. No press release. Just gone. Marissa filed for bankruptcy, her accounts frozen, her assets contested, her job lost. She reached out once, through a third party. I declined. I didn't throw a party. Didn't post a quote about closure. I just lived. In Chesapeake, I launched a mentorship initiative for young Black architects and Nigerian American students. We didn't talk about betrayal. We talked about design, resilience, legacy. Word got around, though. Industry folks whispered about what really happened with me and Voltwi. No one asked me directly. They didn't need to. Every morning, Amaya ran into my arms like I was the center of her world. I never missed that moment. Never rushed it. In those quiet seconds, nothing else mattered. Not what they did, not what I lost, not even what I learned. Because revenge didn't need to shout. It had already spoken. And I had no regrets. Do you think I made the right call by walking away without saying a word, or should I have confronted them face to face? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I really want to know. And if you want more stories like mine, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.